Welcome to this explainer brought to you by Forge College. Today, we're making that absolutely crucial transition from the sheer panic-inducing chaos of just staring at endless lines of raw code right into building a precise, structured audit blueprint. Now, if you caught our previous explainer on framing an audit, you know we've already cataloged our attack surfaces and built out those threat models. But let's be real, a threat model is kind of just a scary theory until you actually test it. So today, we're going to translate those abstract threats into a rock-solid, concrete plan. Here's our schematic for today. We've got 5 key phases. The blueprint begins, mapping tasks and owners, reporting checkpoints, triage and scheduling, and finally wrapping up the plan. Let's get right into it. Section 1. The blueprint begins.
Okay, so the shift in mindset here is absolutely critical. If framing is sort of like an architect pointing at a building and guessing exactly where the wind might knock it down, well, planning is the exact scheduled engineering process of how we're actually going to test that. Framing says, hey, this bridge might collapse under heavy wind. Planning says, all right, we're going to blast it with a wind tunnel on Tuesday for 4 hours, and we're using these specific sensors.
To make that shift, every single node in your attack surface inventory has to transform into a verifiable task. You literally can't just write, check the smart contract on a sticky note and call it a day. No way. You've got to map out the element, clearly state your exact verification method, so something like targeted fuzzing or static analysis, then assign a specific owner, and finally, estimate a realistic evidence-based timeline. Which brings us to Section 2, mapping tasks and owners. So what exactly do we mean by an owner? Well, it's definitely not just a vague team name like the security guys. It is a specific, concretely named individual or role. Think static analyst or economic reviewer. We have to do this because, let's face it, when everyone thinks the team is handling it, absolutely nobody handles it. But when Alice is the named static analyst, well, Alice knows exactly whose neck is on the line. Let's actually look at how this plays out in the real world. Say we're auditing an upgradable token system. Step 1, you identify a high-risk element, right? Like maybe an access-controlled mint function. Step 2, you define the task and verification method, which in this case might be a thorough static review of the minting logic. And then step 3, you assign the owner and schedule a timeline. So you hand it over to your static analyst, let's say Alice, and give her a strict 3-day timeline. Clean, clear, and absolutely zero ambiguity. Now, you might be wondering, this is all great for the auditors, but how do stakeholders actually know the audit is progressing safely and on schedule? Because, a brilliant blueprint is completely useless without regular building inspections. And that leads perfectly into Section 3, reporting checkpoints. A reporting checkpoint is basically a discrete, scheduled moment where you produce an artifact and a short narrative for stakeholder review. These are absolutely essential milestones. They basically prevent your team from disappearing into a dark room for 3 weeks and then emerging with a massive document nobody saw coming. Every single checkpoint requires a tangible artifact, even if that's just a simple CSV file of triaged findings. To put that into perspective, a standard healthy project timeline usually looks a bit like this. On day 1, you do an initial scope confirmation. This is to avoid that dreaded scope creep, where new contracts just mysteriously appear in your queue. Then by day 5, you have a mid-audit findings check to surface any critical blockers nice and early. And finally, around day 10, a pre-final integration validation. Doing it this way keeps everybody aligned and keeps anxiety levels super low. Next up is Section 4, triage and scheduling. Here, we actually use 2 distinct and maybe slightly humorous, but highly effective mental models. First up is surgical triage. It's exactly like an ER doctor handling heart attacks before stubbed toes, right? We prioritize the exploits that could cause massive financial or structural ruin first. Then there's construction scheduling. This is where we sequence our independent dependencies perfectly so your senior engineers aren't just left standing around waiting for a test environment to boot up. It's like watching a crew watch wet concrete dry. Nobody wants that. In practice, this creates a really strict matrix. Critical items, those highly exploitable bugs, they get immediate attention from your senior lead reviewers. Plus, we actually reserve an extra rework day just in case. High priority items, those run in parallel with your analysts and fuzz engineers. And those medium to low impact code formatting issues, well, we don't ignore them, but we definitely batch them up for a final sweep by a junior reviewer so they don't clog up the main arteries of the audit.
To absolutely avoid the dreaded stalled pipeline, you have to explicitly identify your dependencies and handoffs. You need to define the minimum viable artifact for a task to be considered totally done. And always bake in a 20% time buffer for rework. Security audits are just notoriously unpredictable, and cross-cutting issues are going to pop up. That buffer is literally your safety net.
All right, moving into Section 5, wrapping up the plan. Your final working document really needs to be a minimal, highly readable task list, just like this. It's got the task, the owner, duration, priority, and checkpoint. That's the whole shebang, no fluff. Keeping this live and version controlled guarantees that your daily execution stays brutally focused on the exact right priorities. The absolute golden thread running through this entire process is traceability. When Alice or Bob logs a finding, it can't just exist in a vacuum. Every single finding an owner makes must link directly back to the specific scoped item from your initial inventory. This is what proves to your stakeholders that you actually covered the surface area you promised you would. And please, whatever you do, remember this ironclad governance rule. If the schedule, the scope, or the ownership shifts during the audit, and let's be real, it usually will, it must be logged with a reason and approved by the audit lead. Your final report needs to be entirely auditable and defensible. Reviewers need to see the decisions you made along the way, not just the bugs you found at the end. So the real question here is, are you building a rigorous, verifiable security framework, or are you just paying for an incredibly expensive, disorganized to-do list? By planning with this level of precision, you set yourself up to evaluate findings with absolute clarity. Next time, we're going to use this baseline to classify severity and build remediation matrices. Until then, keep your plans tight, keep your scopes clear, and to dive deeper into this subject and other Web3 topics, be sure to visit forge.college. Thanks for joining me on this explainer.